Welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of the series. In the previous episode, we began construction of our large steel production complex, and today, we continue developing it. Today we are about to complete the first steel plant. Out of the entire production chain, from mining to processing, and finally manufacturing, this is the last key facility required to start production. Even though the complex is only partially completed, this building alone brings us very close to launching operations. At the moment, the project is built to roughly 50% of its full scale. That's intentional. We don't yet need maximum output, and more importantly, we currently don't have enough workers to supply the entire complex. For a moment, we move away from the complex to check on a nearby bridge project. Here, a second temporary wooden bridge is being built parallel to the existing one. The purpose of this is simple. Once the new temporary crossing is ready, we can demolish the old bridge and replace it with a modern structure. The first main task today is designing a train distribution office. This building will be placed at one end of the complex so it can efficiently serve all factories and storage areas. The logic behind this layout is the same principle I explained earlier in the rail logistics video. Its main job will be collecting finished steel from the mills and transporting it to a nearby storage facility. From that storage, trains can then be loaded for export or distribution. Keeping output materials stored in one location greatly simplifies logistics, reduces congestion, and makes scheduling trains far more efficient. Without a centralized system like this, each factory would need its own dedicated trains, which would increase traffic, cost, and micromanagement. Using a distribution office instead means fewer trains, better routing, and a much cleaner network overall. By the way, if you want to support the channel, you can now become a member. With the rail office planned, we return once again to the complex area for the next design stage. The next project is planning a coal power plant for electricity generation. For now, this will remain only a blueprint. The complex still isn't large enough to justify building it yet, but preparing the layout early will save time later. Planning infrastructure in advance is one of the most effective ways to avoid redesigning entire industrial zones in the future. This reserved space will allow us to quickly build a dedicated power source for the complex. Now we move on to the sewage system for the complex. There isn't anything particularly complicated here. It's mostly pipes, junctions, and underground connections. For this industrial zone, I'm not planning to build a full water treatment system. There are no nearby residential areas, so there's no immediate risk of pollution affecting citizens. Because of that, a simplified drainage network is enough for now, which saves both time and construction costs. After that, we move on to the water supply system. Here, the plan is to keep the industrial network separate from the future city network. The complex will have its own dedicated water tower, acting as a local buffer. This helps stabilize pressure and prevents fluctuations if demand suddenly increases. Separating industrial and residential supply systems is usually a smart approach, because factories can consume enormous amounts of water in a very short time. Near the existing treatment facilities, I place an additional large pump to expand capacity. This pump will split output into two directions. One line will continue feeding the urban network, while the second line will be dedicated to industrial consumption. Designing it this way ensures both systems remain stable without competing for the same water flow. Meanwhile, the wooden bridge is now history, and in its place there is a new modern bridge that will no longer slow down traffic. Work on the water pipes has also progressed, and filling of the water tower in the industrial complex has begun. This brings us one step closer to the start of production. Next comes a small, but extremely important task: building waste collection areas for the industrial zone. Heavy industry generates large amounts of waste. Because of that, proper waste logistics are just as important as resource delivery. Now that several of the factories are already completed and the steel mill is nearing its final stages, we can begin shifting workers toward production. Up until now, most of the workforce was focused on construction. But with the core facilities almost ready, their role changes. They're now being reassigned to operate the plants and start the first industrial processes. And with that, iron extraction and processing here officially begins. To keep up with the growing demands of the complex, it's time to expand our rail fleet. As construction shifts toward production, the need for steady workforce transport becomes critical. Additional freight cars will also be needed to handle deliveries to the complex. These will be dedicated primarily to coal and steel transport, which will soon become one of the key resources powering the entire complex. Expanding the train capacity now ensures the logistics network can support future growth without bottlenecks. In the meantime, the steel plant has been completed. With the final key facility ready, the complex is now capable of beginning its first real production cycle. And right on schedule, the new wagons have arrived at the depot. This means we can finally assemble our first dedicated coal train, a supply line that will be absolutely essential for the plant's operation. Once assembled, the train departs the depot, beginning its first run toward the complex. Moments later, it arrives at the unloading station, delivering the very first tons of coal to the steelworks. From this point forward, the industrial chain is officially alive. As mentioned earlier, waste management is extremely important. And now that production is officially starting, we need to make sure all byproducts are transported out of the facility. For the time being, every type of waste will be sent to the existing processing plant. If production scales further, we may eventually need a dedicated waste system just for this complex. With these shots of our very first steel production, we're wrapping up today's episode. This marks the beginning of full industrial activity in the complex, and things are only going to scale from here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the channel to support the series. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.